All right, welcome to another DoneJS contributors meeting. We missed last week because the Bitovi team was doing their annual reviews, which was really fun because we got to talk a lot about technology and kind of our evangelism effort for DoneJS, and I'll probably start talking about that more in detail next week. Also, we're going to start putting up, I'm going to put up together meeting notes, and combined we'll put up meeting notes for every one of these so that people can kind of see a weekly status of everything that's happening. Speaking of that, I'm going to share what I started as the weekly. I put my weekly status, and Matthew put his, and we'll get everybody else's as well. David is on PTO, I think, today, so he will probably have to put his in if he's not PTO, or I'll fill in his for him. So last week, this last week was kind of like a partial week, but the big thing is we released CanJS 2.3.6, which had it kind of had a critical bug fix. There was a bug with computes not updating correctly still after the new compute changes. And then we just released 2.3.7 last night with a bunch of other bugs. There was a bug with, if you're using the content element, the context would not be the right thing. There was also some other bugs with using the dot operator if you were trying to export, or the context backtrack operator if you're trying to export into the parent. This wasn't working. There was a bug if you were using @index, it wasn't working, and that's fixed. My hope is that 2.3.7 is worthy of people upgrading now. That's why I really want to work on the 2.3 release article for next week to say, hey, everybody who is on 2.2, now is a really good time to try upgrading. You should probably expect very few problems. Hey, Prashant.
There he is.
Hey, Justin, how are you?
Good. Prashant, your T-shirt and sweatshirts are on the way. Julian, yours are going out today, finally. Sorry for the delay, but Prashant, yours are already there. They should hopefully arrive, I don't know, whenever, like however long. I think they said it's like a week and a half to get to India. But they're definitely on their way as of last week.
Oh, thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. So, other things that I've been working on. I've been working on finalizing the guides. I reworked a little bit of the why CanJS, and this is something that I wanted to talk about, which I'll get to. And I'm also just working on, I rewrote the setup, how you set up CanJS, so it's in one page, a little bit more organized. And now I'm working on the actual guide itself, just polishing it, making a few minor changes. And then I also produced, as kind of an output that people were asking, a CanJS kind of technology roadmap of what the kind of things that I think are interesting. I think this is a good place to just have a general discussion here, and then I'll start moving this into real issues eventually. And we'll talk about that in a second. And then for next week, I want to put together an evangelism roadmap on kind of how we're going to talk about DoneJS and CanJS going forward. I want to get that 2.3 release article out, and I want to push out some of these pages that I've been updating from the new guide. So the things that I want to talk about are the tech roadmap, talking about like why. I also want to talk about, for the evangelism stuff, it's important that we talk about like why, have a good understanding of why people should use CanJS. When I talk about ideas for that, I've already said I want to talk about people upgrading. I guess I've already said what I want to say there. Everybody should upgrade, and yeah, T-shirts are going out. The last of, everybody should at least be in, their T-shirts and sweatshirts should be in transit as of end of today. So let me do my things to talk about.
Well, should we all go through first, and then, because I feel like this is probably going to take
I think that's
a while.
okay. Sure, we can do that. Sure. That's fine. Matthew?
Mine's pretty simple. I did some steel releases to fix bugs. That's what I've done like this week. There's a project that's using the SAS plugin that's having some performance issues, so I'd like to look into that to see if it's fixable. And I don't know if I'll get to that this week, but I'd like to create a steel roadmap similar to what you did with DoneJS. And we're going to have to get into placing order training materials for the training. We have a training in mid-January. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of stuff to do there, I think. That's probably what my focus will be.
Cool. Julian, did he drop? He went.
Oh, Julian dropped.
Prashant, I don't know if you have any updates?
Yeah, sure. So I was working on an issue. I'll just give you the number for that.
Which issue is it?
Yeah, that is 1877.
$180?
Yeah, 1877.
Oh, 1877. Yes.
So with this, I mean, there is a problem when we have watch and unwatch as your can.map properties, and this problem occurs in Firefox. So I was just wondering what would be the best way to address this problem.
That's a good question that I wish.
So the problem is that Firefox has a function called watch, so if you add a property to a map called watch, it doesn't want you to do that.
Right. So should we let CanJS store a property with that name? Because if we do that, then it will probably override the Firefox property.
Yeah, so this is like if someone had a
Has own property or something.
property. Yeah. And what's the like? Is there was there a test that someone submitted? There's a lot of.
No, I'm not sure if there was a test. I didn't find a test there. I was trying to write a test myself, but I'm still not ready with it.
Yeah, I think the. The best thing would be to add a test. I guess
I think he had one at some point, but I don't know what happened with his changes here.
there's just a lot of.
So you can make one for like any property. It doesn't have to be watch. Like any property that's always on the object prototype.
String might be another example.
Yeah, I think this case it actually throws an exception. Where in those cases, I'm not sure what would happen. Like you can overwrite to a string, so I would think that would be okay.
Was there an issue that was actually created, or is this just a pull request?
I'm not sure if there was an issue.
Yeah. So Prashant, I think the thing to do here is to create a test with this breaking. I'm not actually sure. Like in some ways, I don't know if we can actually support certain like toString is probably something we could support, but like a has own property. What does watch actually do?
So watch, if you have watch, so basically it works almost the same way how can.map works. So basically you will have property there, you'll add an object there, and once you start watching that object, you can actually observe the changes in that object. So you could do object.bind, and then the property that you have there in the bind, you can actually listen to changes in that property.
Okay.
It's kind of like object observe.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Looks very similar to it. Except you listen to specific properties, and they say it's used for debugging. Okay, this is something we probably can make work, but does it throw an error if someone sets a watch property? Okay, I guess what you should do is create a test in CanMap test that sets a watch property, and then just see it break in Firefox, and then I would just reach out. I would start with that, and then the fix is probably I don't know how it's breaking, so it's hard for me to say what the fix is. But I guess once the test is in place, it'll be easy to know exactly why it's breaking. So I guess I would start with that. Cool. Anything else?
Sure. I just wanted to confirm if you're doing this for watch, maybe we should do this for unwatch as well.
Yeah.
The other property.
Probably. I mean, yeah, almost certain. I would imagine the fix for watch would also work for unwatch or anything else that's kind of similar.
Right. Okay. Okay. Sure.
Very cool. All right. And Prashant, if you don't mind, just for in this post here, just add that as your status for what you're working on.
I will do that.
Cool. Great. Thank you. Hey, Julian, you're up next.
So yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm working last week on the possibility to set up a Vagrant machine. So Vagrant is a virtual machine. We can start a Linux inside and then map some folder from my Windows machine to this Linux machine. So it's the easy way. If you have Windows, you have to install a C++ compiler, you have to install Python and some other dependencies. So if we start this Vagrant machine, we can make a bootstrap file and set up all the stuff so the user can start this Vagrant machine and start coding. I can share my screen so I can show you some types here. And yeah, I talked to Matthew last week because I have an issue. Maybe he can talk here and give some feedback what he has done. So
your bundles path issue I fixed. We can pair on that later to make sure your app's working with it.
Yes. So do you see my screen?
Yep. Although the font is a little small.
So how can I make it bigger?
Be like Control Plus, maybe?
Control Plus. No, I think it's not. Wait a second. So, big enough?
Looks good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is the Vagrant file. So I have here a Linux distribution, and I make a port forwarding and I map some folder into this Linux machine. So I can code have my files on my Windows machine, and these are mapped to this Linux via Symlink. So I tried first to put all stuff into this Vagrant, but I run into an issue because Vagrant and Windows have some trouble with symlinks. So I put some dependencies out in my Windows machine and core to build an app. So steal tools and the generator Yeoman, and this all is in the in the Linux machine, and in the Windows machine I have Steel, and I think I have CanJS, and that's all I have with Node modules. If you start this, I got this. Yeah, I can connect with SSH to this Linux machine. I have full access to all Linux folders, and if I change into my CanJS app, I'm on my Windows machine here. These files are on my Windows machines, and if I bootstrap, I can bootstrap this machine, and if I did this, if I bootstrap this, this is the bash I made. So we have install Git, Node, and Steel tools and Node for Steel the right Node version 1.0.1.2, and at the end I have some dependencies. And if I start this, I have an Apache server local on my Windows machine, so I can also start an web server on the Linux because I have port forwarding. But on my development, I have an Apache on my Windows machine. So if I can access to this folder, and Steel would load this file. And if I would to build this file, I can get back to my Vagrant machine and can run node build, and now I'm building via Vagrant machine this app. So this is the way you have easier to have not put all your stuff into a Windows machine. You must install Vagrant, and I have used from Oracle, and I think no, it's what it was. It was
Cool. So like these Vagrant things, I'm not really familiar. How do you like distribute it? You just distribute that file, like so other people can use it.
Yeah, only to distribute this bash file and this Vagrant file. These are all these two files you have to need to run this Vagrant machine. So all the things behind the scenes would take Vagrant and this virtual box. It's Sun. Or
is that something that we could make? So this Vagrant was just for Steel and for CanJS, right? Or
yeah.
Maybe you can run all the stuff into. You can run a whole Node application in this stuff, and you can you can run it as server. You can make this port forwarding, and you have this running as a server. You can run all the stuff, but if you have a Windows machine, you have this issue that you couldn't have symlinks. So if you mapped this folder, this Windows folder, to this Linux folder, and you try to run an npm something else that needed symlinks, so it doesn't work because Windows don't support symlinks.
Okay, so like if So you're saying it doesn't totally work then if you try to do an npm install, that you have to go into, you have to tunnel into your,
Yeah, it's not totally working. It's not on all over working, yeah, thing. So you have to put, maybe I think this symlinks are some dependencies. I think it's testy or something else that need symlinks. Steel tools don't need the symlinks. Steel tools is working without. I think is without. Maybe you can install all the npm globally. So they are globally installed, so you don't have this node modules in your mapped folder.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, it'd be really, yeah, we need to look at testy. I've said this for a long time to David, is that just like testy, I think, has the biggest import. Like it requires the most modules that require the most modules. And there's
Yes.
a lot of risk there because of there's something that requires symlinks.
Yes.
At some point we should have David take a look at that.
Well, I think the problem with symlinks is our DoneJS command is based on that, right? You know, if you do DoneJS develop,
Yeah, so
it
I
goes
have
into node
Yeoman.
modules.bin.
Yeah, exactly. So I have Yeoman and have this done creator, done creator, I think, and this is Yeoman. You can create DoneJS apps with Yeoman directly without this DoneJS and
Without the DoneJS command, yeah.
yes. So we have a workaround.
Matthew, why does
So you know how there's node modules.bin?
yeah, it just depends on the bin.
Those are symlinks.
Yeah, we kind of talked about a way to like escape that.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Which probably isn't too hard, but yeah, we should. You know, I don't know if you guys saw this. I just tweeted about it, but someone is actually looking for, I think, somebody to teach them how to do set up the DoneJS example app. I'm betting that this is on a Windows platform. If anybody wants to apply for that, or Julian, maybe a quick way to make $200, because I think this is something that we really do need to focus on, is getting the Windows story right, and just keep making Windows easier, because there's just so many Windows users.
Yes.
Yeah, something maybe for kind of the January timeline. Cool, awesome. So I guess what's your goal for this, Julian?
Yeah, so I have talked to Matthew because I run into issues where I want to build something like the app, and the app is not working with the build. So I talked to Matthew and we figured out some issues, and he said I mixed a lot of possibilities together, and these possibilities are not really compatible. Are not, yes, connect to each other. So or I'm wrong, Matthew.
Well, I don't think it's that they're not compatible. I mean, they just said there was bugs. We have probably too much stuff where you like change the paths to stuff, and it makes it hard. So there's just a bug. That's all.
Okay, so without this bug, we can compile.
You should be able to work. Yeah, we can go over it together.
Okay, so maybe if it works, we can distribute this vagrant file, and maybe some other can download it and can play around with that.
Yeah, so maybe you guys can connect about this later and try to simplify. I guess it'd be really cool for the end goal for that to be like, hey, here's a DoneJS vagrant file that anybody can just use for Windows if they want it a little bit easier setup.
Yeah. Also, Vagrant is also possible with Mac or Linux, so you don't have your own Mac or Linux. Yesterday I attend a meetup where somebody speak about Docker, and I think Docker is not the right place to put a CanJS or DoneJS app into. So I think Vagrant is the best place. You have a virtual machine, you run this virtual machine, and you have full access to all Linux commands, and all
Yeah.
the stuff. So it's
That,
very easy.
is that something we could create like a GitHub repo that you could start like putting this stuff in there and then
Yes.
change the DoneJS, like, there's that page for DoneJS setup, setting up DoneJS. It'd be really cool to setting up to have a Vagrant.
Yeah. Yeah, can I do? I have to refactor my application, and then if it still work, or if it's work, I can make a repo and push it.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. We can create that for you too.
Okay.
And then getting the instructions here on how to use that, I think that would be really helpful for a lot of people.
Yes.
That'd be amazing.
Okay, done.
Cool, amazing. So, anything else? I was going to get now into the discussion topics that I want to talk about, but I noticed there's a bunch of people here today. Anything anybody else wanted to bring up? I will take that as
Nope, not here.
What?
Nope.
You said. Okay, so let's talk about it. Let's talk about first the tech roadmap. Basically, well, actually, let's actually start before with something else. Let's talk about the why. Why CanJS? I think we need to answer this, obviously, and kind of have really good reasons on why you would use CanJS over something like React or Angular. I think everybody now, I think it's the arguments over Angular are, I think, perfunctory. Meaning that like we don't even need to make them anymore. I don't know, maybe with Angular 2 coming out.
I think Angular still has a lot of appeal for big companies.
Yeah. So I think well, and I should take it even a step back. I don't think we should necessarily define ourselves in terms of like what other people are. That kind of comes secondary. So the way that I think about it is, or CanJS and kind of DoneJS are similar in my mind in that they just represent a hopefully somewhat smooth but continuing evolution of JavaScript technology that is just very well-rounded framework. I kind of want us to represent like, we're good at pretty much everything. That might not be, honestly, that might not be something that appeals to a very wide audience because people tend to, in general, like specialization, and that's what they respond to from a marketing perspective. But I don't think we should be something that we're not at the same time. And I think just we do a very good job of solving like a lot of little problems that nobody else solves, and in I think very good ways. And I think that should be kind of the brand message. How do you guys feel about that?
So like CanJS is the framework that has like dotted the I's. You could say it like that.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when like I think that the why here and the roadmap, the eventual roadmap, should kind of fit in together well. But yeah, dotted the I's. Like a lot of things CanJS does is, and so I kind of broke it down a little bit. Like it is extremely flexible. That you can use jQuery, and you can even tear down. Like you can use jQuery, you can use Zepto. It supports all browsers. You can actually use a jQuery plugin, and it works, unlike React. You just can't, once you're in React land, you kind of have to be in React land. And it's, it's got all of the features that modern things have, with custom elements, different binding syntaxes, the define is probably and its version of computes are probably the most unique thing about it. But it enables the same kind of how do I say this, like we don't do a good enough job of selling it, but it enables a lot of the same functional reactive style programming that you can do with React, especially 2.3. If you wanted to go always up to this main state and change things that way, you can do that. And it avoids memory leaks and does those kind of like smart, stuff with the model store and things like that. And then finally, CanJS is pretty darn fast. I mean, it's small, especially compared to like Angular. And its live binding doesn't require a big diff every time. And I think that this will only get better with the roadmap if we start landing the CanDerive plugin.
Does that 20K include jQuery? Should we maybe mention that?
It's not include jQuery, but it doesn't include Zepto or anything else.
Okay.
In some ways, I feel like that's, I don't know. I'd be surprised if there's many projects of any size that don't, like even like of React, that aren't using jQuery.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're comparing with Angular, a lot of Angular apps wouldn't use jQuery. Anyway.
Really? I
Yeah.
mean, big apps would not use jQuery or Zepto or a DOM. They just
They have their own DOM thing, don't they?
They have, jQuery Lite or something, JQ Lite, which gives you pieces of jQuery, but it's not.
Well, Angular 2 is like 500K right now or something, so I think we're okay.
Yeah.
For the time being.
All right, I mean, we can include that, but I mean, the original CanJS, I'm not even sure what this. I think this is. We kind of have to come to another one because the original CanJS was actually under 10K. I didn't actually calculate this, and this is something that we could probably get down quite.
Yeah, get rid of EJS, Mustache.
Well, those don't. I don't think they're included. I'm just including core, which doesn't include Stash.
No, it includes Mustache and EJS.
What?
It includes Mustache and EJS.
Yeah, it doesn't
right?
include EJS, the core. It's let in as a plugin as a 2.0, pretty sure. So that's something that we could work on as well. But in general, the thing is, what I want to, the biggest thing that I'm not getting to here is really just how observables are actually really, really nice. And that direct observables are something that you don't have in Angular or React, and that once you start getting in uncomfortable positions, they make everything better. Which is something that's very hard to articulate. But we are the only framework that actually has real first-class observables that are kind of independent of everything else.
So I wonder if we made Can Compute a separate project and like really promote that, like maybe you get a benefit there.
Yeah. Well, I
Does
think
that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I think people who understand like event streams. I don't want to get into that conversation, but people who understand it, like they get it. It's somewhat appealing if you like that sort of thing. So if we can like shape the narrative of what computes are somehow as its own project and be like, well, this is a really awesome thing, and you know about this thing. CanJS, depends on this.
Yeah, in some ways I've thought about positioning CanJS as less of a framework and more of like a utility framework for kind of higher order constructs. Like, React is just known as being like, oh, it's just this templating layer. Well, CanJS can be like, well, here's the observables, here's a simple DOM, here's like it's a collection of kind of MV star based functionality that you can use and mix and match to kind of your heart's delight. Yeah, there's some things that are higher order, like computes are built on both a template and a observable system. but if you wanted, it's relatively easy to pull the observable system if that's what you really want, and use that in any other way. So I don't know. I haven't thought it all out yet. It's something that we need to figure out going forward. And if people have thoughts on that, please share them. That's something that will be better. Huh?
So this is Chris. I agree. That was like the main attractor for me to CanJS, and but at the time I wasn't building like really big complex applications. I was building little tiny widgety style applications, and it was kind of like, and I want that feature of CanJS, but I can't really take on the whole crux of CanJS. I mean, I probably could. Eventually, I just got into big apps anyway, so it didn't really matter. But I think that there's like a huge missed opportunity for us to find believers because they can't just play with that portion of the tool set.
Yeah, it's a difficult.
So I think that would be a really good thing to do.
Yeah, it's a difficult argument to make because it requires a lot of complex understanding. Like people can just, we need to figure out a way to distill it down because people can beat themselves over the head with the like one-way data flow all the time, but what that ends up doing is creating a giant mess, I think, in the middle. Like you have this one thing that everything has to go through, and that creates a bottleneck. Where observables do allow multiple communication channels between different objects and different paths. And people, I know, will kind of complain about that, but that's absolutely critical in a big application if you want things modular. I guess in some ways this is how I see it, is observables allow things to be modular and be built independently.
Yeah, I think the argument is components. Is like this actually enables modular components.
Yeah, it really allows
self-contained
modular components is what observables.
Yeah, every Fluxy one-way data thing I've ever seen always has like a giant switch statement. And that's like the center of everything.
Yeah, and that's just not how I think things should be built.
Yeah, but I disagree, maybe. So this whole switch application I don't like really. I came from PHP, and in the beginning of PHP we have the same. We have this index PHP, and we have if statements or switch statements, and then include some other stuff. So if you have a big application with a whole of sites or websites, you have this huge index PHP file with all this if or switch statements, which is a mess to develop. So I like this routing system. If you have a route, and under this route you have this controller-like system where you put your logic in and have this view. Maybe it's a complex it's a complete other way like CanJS did, but is this the right way?
I think we're talking about two different things.
Oh.
So we're not talking about, like, observables allow you to have, like, there's CanJS's routing, and then there's, like, observables and what observables provide. And those are kind of, in my head, two different animals. Like, observables allow you to have essentially action at a distance. Like, I can have the same to-do in two different components, and they can both be listening to it without having to go through some parent intermediary, right? And what React in that always one-way data flow thing creates is everything has to go through the parent intermediary. Yeah, that might make your application more, like you can always draw a path between how everything behaves, but you create a lot more code, and then things can't work independently and are as modular. So that creates a problem. Now, if you're talking about like how routing works in CanJS, and that there's this switch statement, in the templates or wherever. That's kind of a different thing, and I agree that it is not. It's not super user friendly. The routing, like the problem is there's a cost benefit of modularity and independence and state-based things versus pattern matching URLs. And I'd be fine with a different, like, alternate routing mechanisms in CanJS. Like, we kind of had one in the beginning with can control route. But I'd be fine with, like, I've thought about other ones with, like, custom element based that look like React's router. The only problem with all of those is you always need to build your own URLs yourself because you don't have the reverse routing rules, and that creates problems of its own. But two different things, I guess.
Okay. Other talk.
Yeah. Okay, so with that, that's something that we need to figure out. We'll probably talk about more next week. I do want to run through quickly the roadmap discussion. Matthew, by the way, we'll probably have to do the training because it's about progressive loading if you have time. So the roadmap, basically, the way that I look at what we should be doing with CanJS is we should be using the benefits of our direct observable layer, which is really strong. We should be improving that so it looks pretty and getting the most out of it. So the biggest things towards that is not actually the React things. It's first, it'd be nice if our observables, you could use the dot operator. I think that just makes a lot of sense. The problem with this is we need proxies, but we can also do it so if you preemptively declare all of your properties, then it works as well, because we can use getter setters to do that. I actually created a project a while ago that does this.
So what's wrong with that project? Like, if this is on the roadmap, you already created it.
Well, it doesn't. It's not. It doesn't use getter setters. It just uses proxies.
Okay.
It needs the getter setter fallback, and it needs to be. It's nice if it can work on, like, the prototype of things as well. And like the.
Does that mean? Sorry, I want to just have some context here. The roadmap, is this like a 2.4 goal, or is this a 2.
No, this would be.
What's
So I kind of put it here. What I would think the upcoming. So 3.0 would essentially be just cleaning up CanJS, like defaulting to stash, adding some structural changes. So certain plugins are kind of booted out of the project. Certain other ones are like by default, like the define plugin. But basically just a cleanup where we kind of get rid of some old APIs, stabilize on things. Bring in, like, maybe can connect or something. And then, so let me just get to what these things are.
Sorry for the distraction.
So add a list of observables. I think that makes sense. I think to go with our strength, it would be really nice if can-derive supported all of the other Lodash methods. This helps with the kind of functional reactive programming idea that everybody's really big fans of right now. Is can-derive allows you to get much faster derived lists and values. I think it'd be good to pull that in by default inside CanJS, depending on the size of it, and we can work to get that down. And then also have all of Lodash's methods so that we can reasonably support with it. So reduce, filter, sort, pluck, or anything else that we think makes sense we should support. And that'll give us a very strong performance argument to make that really only we could provide. I think batching should be automatic at this point. I just think it's
Okay, this is the one I didn't really understand. Could you explain?
So what I mean is, I think there's somewhere in the documentation that actually shows how to turn on batching automatically. But if I change a bunch of properties, like if people change a bunch of properties through the add for method, um, they see multiple things, like they'll see the page update multiple times because it's synchronous,
Uh-huh.
right? But if we batched everything within a tick, essentially, by default, then they would make their changes and then everything would seem like, it happens at one time.
So how are you going to do this? Are you going to do like a can wait kind of thing where you...
No,
Where...
no. You don't need to do that. It's much more simple. You just simply, at the every request animation frame, at the end of the request animation frame, you're going to start a batch. And then the next request animation frame, you're going to stop it and commit all those changes. And then you're going to start one again. And you're just going to go, essentially, do a start batch and stop batch every request animation frame.
Because if you start to do a lot of dominant
synchronous rendering then, right?
Yep. You guys both.
Chris, you go. I talk too much.
No, it's fine. So if we make a lot of DOM manipulations all at once, the browser is going to tend to kind of buffer those changes anyway, and like not really update the screen until everything's done. So it could kind of do one, repaint and layout. So this is just basically getting on board with that, if I understand correctly. We're just going to get in line with what the browser already wants to do. Is that right, Justin?
Yes, kind of. Yes.
But does this mean that rendering will be async?
Yes, but we can have stop batch true to flush any events. So if you want, like in a test, to make it synchronous, the update, you can call this, and that will flush the current batch and any pending changes. Which all of this actually already works. It's just we didn't put it in for 2.0 because I was chicken, and I think it's a good idea now, basically.
Doesn't that kind of hurt us a little on the jQuery widgets front, or is that just something that's solved by the flushing of events also?
I don't know how that hurts us with jQuery. How does that hurt us with jQuery?
Well, if we change state and then we expect that the widget would be able to use the modified DOM to do something, let's say a date picker.
That hurts us anytime you're going to change something and then look at the DOM immediately. But you can also provide callbacks to know when that batch is. This is already provided in the batch API. You can register a callback to let you know when the current running batch has been finished. So you would do that probably, right? Which, it hurts us, but I think that everything, we talk about our flexibility. Well, yeah, we were as flexible as possible if you're coming from a jQuery world. Now we're going to be a little less flexible, but you can still get back to that if you want.
Cool, dig it.
Hey, we got 10 minutes, so we should probably go through this.
The other thing is I want to make are things inheritable, but this might be impossible. We'll see, because the extends keyword doesn't actually let you know, there's no callback to let you know, oh, hey, component has just been extended. Do you want to do any additional cleanup past the extension? Do
we actually need that?
We definitely do for component, because we need to register the tag. We can probably get around it with map, because what we can do is just the first time that map is initialized, we can then run that initialization code on the actual constructor function. So,
could for component, could you create a can register tag or something?
Yeah, you could just call .register after you extended it.
Yeah,
that worked. But
I think people really want class. I think we should try to do it.
Yeah. Okay. There's just problems with it, and that's what I'm just trying to identify. And then finally, the bigger thing was, this is kind of just how evolution doesn't always produce the best results. But I think we'll work our way there. So this is like I do think that after a lot of discussions with people, I do think that the nice thing about JSX is that you just can use JavaScript in the template. Well, we already had that with EJS. Why did we get rid of EJS? Well, mostly because of the .attr. It was so ugly, it was just like, well, let's just make it so people can just write name and not have to do the attr all the time. But if we get attr-less observables, then it makes this being able to use normal JavaScript in a template much more attractive. So I think we can probably hit these at the right time. And I kind of put ideas on how you could get back to like kind of a JSX style template, but with our components and with scope and things like that. And I even put in what what we'd essentially have to compile to, which after writing it out, it doesn't seem actually so bad. So that's that. And then people listed a bunch of, talked also about FRP stuff, specifically with event streams. And we had a discussion about that yesterday, which people can find. Essentially, I think, at least I came to the conclusion that I like event streams. I'd love to see them work with and hand in hand with the define plugin as kind of like a first step. So that kind of computes and event streams can go back and forth between each other. That's kind of my thoughts there. Anything else?
No, I mean, just that we should probably have time to dig deeper into each of these.
Yeah, we could do that in future ones. You can pick one each time and dive deeper into it.
Mm-hmm.
This is just to start discussion. Cool. Anything else?
A small note on the Lodash methods for can drive. So there is another library we may want to look at, which is called Ramda, and basically the main difference is that it's more like functional in terms of because of the argument order, and yeah, if we want to do like more towards like functional style, we may look at this one. Mm-hmm. So the way.
Sure. Yeah, I don't really care what the APIs here are. Also because like Lodash, you always put in front, and then you have your array second. We would actually, because these would be observable lists, we would actually be able to add on these methods directly to the prototype of these things. So unless you're talking about API names, I don't think the API itself, in terms of argument order, would be different.
So you weren't saying we would actually include Lodash. You were just saying we would support those functions.
Yeah. So we would have red-black binary tree versions of as many Lodash methods as we could bring to the table. And I think the cool thing is that we would show just how much faster, like everybody talks about how fast Lodash is, but we would be able to be considerably faster, like algorithmically faster than Lodash on subsequent changes. So you wouldn't have to refilter everything. Instead, you would just modify exactly what needs to be modified on filter.
Okay.
There is a trade-off here, is that, and this is a trade-off that kind of concerns me, and we'll have to put a lot of engineering effort into, is making sure that the initial setup of these binary trees, and I know Chris already did a little bit of work, but we're going to have to do probably a lot of work and a lot of smart thinking, is to make sure that that is as fast as possible. Because initial page rendering times are obviously really important. We can, of course, make certain patterns easier, like if people have 1,000 items and 1,000 items might be a little slow, we can do things like, well, add in your first 500 items and then add in the next 500 items. And then after that, things will be much faster. But there would be trade-offs for initial render time. We'll just have to try to engineer them so they're as minimal as possible. Anything else? All right. Thanks, everybody.
Cool.
And yeah, Prashant, just please, if you can, just link that issue in here.
Sure.
And next week is what day? Maybe the 23rd. So we probably will have a meeting, but I don't know. We'll see how many people come to it.
All right. See y'all next week.
Yep, sounds good. Thanks. Thanks, Prashant.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.